Raphael felt incredibly frustrated. Ah, boss. How can you be so shameless? I've always helped you, and you kill my wife without hesitation. Why, God, why is my boss so shameless? Jenny shook her head and said, his wife just died today, and you were there for the funeral, but he doesn't look like someone who just lost his wife. Julian shot a meaningful glance at his assistant. Raphael quickly pulled out a handkerchief and pretended to wipe away tears. No, ma'am, I'm very sad. Hoo, my wife, she left me all alone in this cruel world. What will happen? I can't do this without her. Watching Raphael act, Julian rolled his eyes and turned to Jenny. Look how sad he is. Jenny merely nodded and gazed out the window, contemplating how her life had changed so suddenly. She was supposed to marry Raka, the man she loved, but now she was marrying Julian, a stranger. Jenny sighed, accepting her reality. After the car stopped, Julian offered his hand. Let's go. Reluctantly, Jenny took his hand and followed him. Within half an hour, all the procedures were completed, and Jenny found herself standing with a red book in her hand. She laughed at herself, thinking, I'm seriously marrying a stranger. My lover and my brother have betrayed me, and now I'm marrying a stranger. My life is truly a big joke. Unlike Jenny, Julian felt a thrill in his stomach. He smiled like a child who had finally received his favorite toy. He was determined to do whatever it took to make Jenny fall in love with him and fulfill all her wishes. Seeing Jenny in a daze, Julian understood her thoughts. He approached her, patted her head, and said, Don't think too much. We're married now, and you're my wife. Julian continued, I know our marriage isn't ideal, but I promise I won't cheat on you. I won't do anything to hurt you. I won't get close to other women, and as I said before, I'll help you get your revenge. Jenny's heart felt heavy hearing Julian's seemingly sincere words. She bit her lower lip and said, I also promise not to get close to other men. I will do my best to be a good wife. Julian patted her head once more and said, Let's go. He pulled Jenny toward his car. Where do you want to go now? Jenny asked. Julian chuckled softly and replied, You don't want to spend your wedding night outside the marriage registration office, do you? If you want, I actually don't mind. I'm fine with anything. Hearing this, Jenny's face turned red. You're such a shameless man. You're breaking the rules. Julian turned to her and said, What did I just say about spending our wedding night together? I never said I would do that. Did you really think I was talking about that? Well, if you want, I don't really mind. Jenny covered her face with her hands and shook her head. I don't want anything from you. Seeing her funny reaction, Julian smiled and got into the car with Jenny. Raphael, who had overheard the entire conversation, thought, the boss is really embarrassing. He then turned to Julian. Where to, sir? Home, Julian replied. After giving instructions to his assistant, Julian turned to Jenny. We'll go home to freshen up, then we'll visit your father. Hearing the word, father, Jenny remembered how he had left her alone. Her face went pale. Why my father? Julian looked into her eyes and explained, When you left the hall and planned to commit suicide, your father decided to abandon your brother and refused to acknowledge him as his daughter. Raka decided to halt all cooperation between Hanjaya and Vuitama. Hanjaya is now on the brink of bankruptcy. Jenny felt guilty about everything that had happened. It's all my fault. Julian smirked. Yes, it is your fault. How could you ever want to marry someone like Raka? I think, besides your tiny hands and pea-sized brain, you also have terrible taste in men. Before Jenny could say anything, Julian interrupted. Anyway, since I'm your husband now, I have to clean up the mess you made. First, we'll start by helping your father with Hanjaya's business. Jenny sighed and asked, And how will you do that? You don't need to worry about that. Besides, even if I told you, your pea-sized brain would never be able to handle it. So, let your father and husband take care of everything. After saying this, Julian lightly patted Jenny's head. 15 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a large house, a luxurious mansion with modern architecture. Jenny got out of the car and gazed at the mansion in awe. Julian placed his hand on her shoulder. "Welcome to your home, madam. Starting today, this is your house." He then led Jenny into the mansion. As they entered the mansion, Jenny saw a middle-aged man standing at the entrance. Upon seeing Julian, the man greeted him politely, "Young master, and this is..." Julian placed his hand on Jenny's shoulder and said, "This is young madam." He then looked at Jenny and said, "This is the head butler, Anton. If you need anything or can't find something, just look for him." Jenny nodded her head. Butler Anton was still in shock. He had never seen Julian bring home any woman. Many women wanted to climb into his bed, but Julian made them disgusted and hated them. Who would have thought he would bring home a wife right away? "Mr. Anton will show you around. I have some unfinished business to attend to. After you've had a look, get ready. We need to go meet your father." Julian then tucked a few strands of Jenny's hair behind her ear before turning and leaving. Once Julian was gone, Butler Anton bowed to Jenny and said, "Come, young madam, I'll take you on a tour." Jenny nodded and began to follow him. They started the tour from the garden. As Butler Anton showed her the garden, Jenny noticed that all her favorite flowers were there. Jenny was surprised when Butler Anton said, "The most special part of this garden is the sunflowers. The young master hired a specialist to plant them here and personally oversaw their work." What's surprising is that Mr. Julian never liked sunflowers when he was young, but suddenly 3 years ago, after returning from a long trip, he decided to plant them. I was also shocked. Jenny was amazed and said softly, "Sunflowers are my favorite flowers." "Ah, so that's why the young master worked so hard. Young madam, he truly loves you," Butler Anton said while leading Jenny through every corner of the house. Jenny followed him with a faint smile, enchanted by every room he showed her: the magnificent library, the modern kitchen, the elegant living room. Every detail seemed to be designed with care. However, the longer she stayed, the more she felt something was off. She began to doubt Julian, sensing that something wasn't right. When they arrived at the master bedroom, her doubts deepened. The room was exactly as she had dreamed it: the furniture design, wall colors, even the bedside lamps with her favorite flower pattern. It was too much of a coincidence to be taken lightly. "Madam, please rest. I'll step out for a moment. If you need anything, press the button by the bed," Anton said before turning to leave the room. Jenny sat on the edge of the bed, her head bowed in confusion. "First, he saved me from whatever it was, then he married me, and now his entire house matches my taste. This can't just be a coincidence. Why didn't I think of this sooner? Julian, why would he want to marry me? Could it be that he..." Thank you all. Have a nice day. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, so that the admin is more enthusiastic to provide entertainment for all of you. See you in the next video.